Let's get started. Thanks everyone for joining the webinar. In this webinar, we will talk about automating your cloud application testing, whether it is HCM cloud, payroll, ERP cloud, or you have a lot of integrations after you migrated to cloud. Whether you have migrated to cloud already and you're in post implementation phase, or you are going through an implementation and you're thinking about supporting the release validation through automation testing, or you're thinking of moving to cloud and you want to understand, how do you want to handle the testing part of it through automation instead of doing it manually, right? So those are the few things that we are going to cover today. In this webinar, along with me, I have Floyd Dieter, who is the Senior Director at Oracle Cloud Center of Excellence. Floyd, do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
You did it very well. My name is Floyd Dieter. I work within the Oracle HCM Cloud Center of Excellence, and amongst other things, I'm the team's subject matter expert on automated testing. So.
Thank you, Floyd. And this is Lavanya Salagundla. I head our test engineering practice at Sunaratech, and the CloudTestr platform that we're going to talk about today falls under my purview. So the way we want to conduct this webinar today is, we've done quick introductions. I'll hand it over to Floyd to cover how Oracle is doing continuous delivery with cloud applications, and how it enables customers in getting new innovations in a faster pace. But with that, there are certain risks that are involved, certain pressures on testing and details like that Floyd is going to cover. Then I will talk about a customer case study of a customer who's actually taken this journey of implementing Oracle HCM Cloud, and how we have partnered with them in terms of during implementation, post-implementation, and the benefits that the customers have reaped by implementing automated testing as a service. And we'll also talk about the platform that has been used, CloudTestr. I'll do a quick demo of the platform, and we can close it with the benefits customers usually get by leveraging testing as a service. And we'll open it up to any Q&A after that. So without any further ado, Floyd, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you. One of the things we've gone to in the Oracle Cloud space, the applications cloud space, is this idea of continuous delivery. It is really cool in that it gets new functionality out to you customers much quicker. But like everything else, it comes at a cost. No such thing as a free lunch. Every time we get a benefit, there's a cost behind it. And one of the costs behind continuous service delivery is that you've got a very short time window to test. We provide an update into your stage pod, typically on the first weekend of the month. And then 2 weeks later, ready or not, we put it in production. So that gives you 2 weeks to do your testing, get any critical issues resolved, and get ready for that update and prod. What that means is, because of the schedule, the tightly contained schedule, that the traditional ways of testing no longer work. I can remember back when I was on the customer side of things, and even on the partner side of things, our testing approach was typically, let's test every business process end to end, and we do it manually. We'd actually execute the business processes in a non-production environment. That doesn't work. Not anymore. You would need an army of people, and they would be working 24/7 just to get your basic testing done. Put bluntly, our demand for testing has increased because you're getting changes much more frequently, and you're getting them on a much shorter testing time schedule. But at the same time, our IT processes and our capabilities haven't ramped up as quick. So we've got this risk gap there of what happens if I don't test everything before it hits prod. So we've got this dilemma to deal with, and it's quite a challenge. It's not insignificant. Next slide, please. So the heat is on. We've talked about the standard cadence. It's a tight schedule. First to stage, 2 weeks later to production. There's some relief in that some of the new features we deliver typically come to existing customers disabled. So you do have some timing flexibility on new feature uptake. But again, like I said, there's a cost to everything. What we're finding is that for some customers, the testing is so important to them, and they've got so many other things to do, that those new features are just simply getting pushed out. There's no uptake there, which means they're losing some benefit because of their limited capability to test. The other thing that really causes this dilemma, the other factor, is there's no officially supported functional regression testing tool for HCM Cloud at this time. I can't look at you and say, here's a tool. It's a tool that is officially supported by Oracle, and you can use this for your automated testing. So the real question becomes, if I'm going to update all this cool new functionality, if I'm going to get the benefits of continuous delivery as an Oracle customer, how do I pack adequate testing into that 2-week window without passing critical bugs and flaws into production? And now we'll flip it over to the next slide, please. So why test at all? This is a good question. Should an Oracle test before they deliver? We absolutely do test before we deliver. There's extensive testing that goes on. A full functional regression test. We burn a lot of time, we burn a lot of resources, but here's the challenge. We can't envision every test variable for every customer. You all have unique configurations. You've got extensions, you've got customizations, you've got your own interfaces. You've got your own way of doing business. So you have to test for yourself. And you've got to do it in that 2-week window to uptake that new functionality. So next slide. So here are your options. Number one, you can test manually. And we have customers who are attempting to test manually. Each and every business process, end to end, every time we put out an update. And what we're finding is those customers are trying to run up a slippery slope. They're falling further and further behind because the load is just too much for them. Testing manually in a fast-paced, continuous delivery environment, it's just not working. Then you have some available automated functional regression testing tools. We have some customers and some partners using Selenium. Selenium, for those of you who are familiar with it, is an open source testing tool. Oracle does not provide support for Selenium. Because it's open source, you get your support for Selenium from the community. It uses cascading style sheet and XPath locators. The challenge with both cascading style sheet and XPath locators is they can change frequently. In fact, when we patch, when we update, they change. Quite a few of them change. So if you go the Selenium route, first you make this investment in writing your own test scripts, building your own test cases, writing your own test scripts. And then you have this significant level of maintenance. Because what you'll find is if the XPath locators change, the test scripts you've written no longer work. You have to go in and put in the new XPath locators. So there's a definite push up there. Then we have this tool that some of you may have heard of coming out of Oracle. It's called ART. And imaginatively enough, it stands for Automated Regression Testing. The way ART works is we have built an Oracle proprietary jar file that allows you to run Selenium within JDeveloper. And then you use JUnit to actually execute your tests and get the reports. The difference here, the big differentiator, is ART uses an ADF-rich locator. The ADF is Applications Development Framework. That's how we build our Oracle applications. And ADF-rich locators are much more persistent across updates than XPath locators are. So you can use this, build your scripts around ADF-rich locators, and you won't have nearly the maintenance that you do with XPath. There are two issues there. One is it's not generally available yet. And two, it still requires the investment of the user building their test cases and running their test scripts. We'll be giving you a tool. We're not selling it. It's going to be, we're going to give you a tool. But you're on your own to write your own test cases and test scripts. So it's really the do-it-yourself path. To be blunt, we have not seen much success with customers taking the do-it-yourself path. There's typically a high level of effort, and there's a high level of frustration. Then the other option is to go testing as a service. And when you talk to me about testing as a service, I continually point customers at Syneratech. And the reason I point them at Syneratech is you got the platform, you got the test cases, you got the test scripts. In fact, I'll tell you, I'll let you in on a little secret. And I'll probably get my wrist slapped for saying this out loud, but I'm going to anyway. We use Syneratech for our own early release validation testing. So the good news is that by the time we put out an update, say 19B, that's going to start coming out here in a couple of weeks, they've already seen 19B. They've already run their test cases and scripts against 19B. They know what's coming. They know their stuff works. It's ready to rock. The other reason I'll recommend these folks is because we have already put them in with several strategic customers who are having issues with testing in particular. And in each and every case, they've done very, very well. I could probably spend the whole hour talking about success stories, but I won't do that here because Lavanya's got to get in some time. So we recommend them when customers come to us to talk about testing options. It's the same discussion that I'm putting forth here. We talk about testing manually, we talk about automated regression testing tools, and then we talk about testing as a service. And I will tell you point blank, the customers that are staying up with the innovation, who are getting the benefit of this continuous service delivery, who are frankly have the lowest stress levels when it comes to testing, they are customers who are using Syneratech. So those are your options. Next slide, please. And I believe, Lavanya, this is where I hand it back over to you. So thank you for the time, folks, and you're on.
Yes, Floyd, thank you. Thank you so much. So Floyd, before I get started, I wanted to ask one question with you. So customers who have migrated to cloud, who's implemented cloud, and they've started using automation testing versus just doing manually. Have you seen customers who have implemented automation see more uptake in the intake of the new features, the innovative features that are getting pushed to the customers? Have you seen that based on your discussions with the customers?
Absolutely, absolutely, and I'll give you one example. The new mobile responsive UI, newsfeed UX. we keep track of which customers have actually gone live with that and innovated with it. And out of the base that's gone live so far, I don't think there is a single customer that is doing manual testing of every business process end to end for each thread. They just don't have the time for that. Don't have the time to uptake the new features because of the way they're testing. Those that have done so, frankly, are either customers of yours or customers who have developed their own in-house automated functional regression testing. So they've put in the investment to build up their own tool set and their own test library. Those are the customers that are, and we see that not only with Newsfeed UX, but with, you know, profile, the enhanced talent profiles, with the data exchange center, with the new features and absence management. It's pretty much across the board that those customers that are rapidly uptaking the new features and staying up to date with continuous service delivery, those are the customers that have some type of automated testing solution.
Okay, great. Thank you, Floyd. So let me get started on the customer case study. A customer, it's a US-based global insurance brokerage customer which operates in 33 countries. They have undertaken their cloud journey last year. They were on Oracle EBS for all their HR systems, and they have implemented Oracle cloud applications, HCM applications in 2 phases. Phase 1, they went live end of last year with core HR, benefits and compensation. And phase 2 went live in April with payroll, time and labor, absences and performance. And it's been implemented across multiple countries as well. Right. So this is a case study. This is a customer who has been on-prem for many, many, many years and made a decision to migrate to cloud because as I'm sure each and every one of you is thinking about future state, thinking about how you want to leverage all the new technologies that are coming up, like AI, ML, mobile enabled, customer experience, blockchain, all these new things are all cloud enabled features, right? So as customers are thinking about taking the cloud journey, it's a huge paradigm shift that we have noticed the customer has to go through, especially from how you do testing. Right? When it comes to on-prem applications, you, as Floyd has mentioned, you have the ability to choose when you take the updates and take the new features. You have to develop your own new features. You have heavily customized it. So in terms of innovation itself, over a period of time, it slows down. But when you're migrating to cloud, you have the ability to get continuous innovation, where Oracle or your cloud partner is providing these innovations continuously in a rapid phase, in a continuous delivery model, where instead of waiting for new features to come in every 6 months or every 1 year or every 2 years that you are going to take, you are continuously getting it either monthly, quarterly, and you have the ability to absorb this innovation, right? So that is one of the benefits that you get migrating to cloud. You do have predictable timeline and schedule. You know that these are the new features coming in, so you can plan accordingly. It enables you to absorb the features. Also, you get the fixes. Previously, if you had any issues, it would take a lot longer for you to get those fixes. So you are putting in your own patches and all. So you are able to now get the fixes and improvements in a much faster fashion. So those are some of the benefits that you are getting as part of your migration to cloud. However, that also brings in new responsibilities from a customer standpoint, right? So you're now having to absorb these changes in a much faster pace. So every quarter you'll have to decide whether you want to take the new features, you have to take the fixes and enhancements, right? So there are a lot more decisions you will have to make, which means you have to prepare and plan accordingly to absorb these changes, to test, to make sure that everything is working good, right? So these are the new things that you are kind of having to undertake. which means that you are having to continuously test and validate what you are taking as well. So that poses a challenge from a customer standpoint, right? So some of the testing specific challenges that you would be seeing is more in terms of, if you have to do manually, as Floyd has pointed out, it is very resource intensive, and the amount of time that you get is very, very short, right? So basically you get, after post implementation, you pretty much get 2 weeks after your test pod gets updated to do the testing, get the issues resolved, and get it to production, right? So that's a very small window for you to be able to test and make sure that all your processes are working well, and you're not going to risk missing anything going into production, right? Also, because of the amount of time that the customer gets, the coverage is not comprehensive. You're going to pick and choose what you're going to test. You have to understand the impact of the new changes coming in, and figure out which tests to perform. You might not have enough time to do regression testing of all the test cases that you want to test, and any errors that you encounter, how you want to, you don't want them identified in the production, right? And if you have multiple groups involved, then you'll have to coordinate with the different teams and all, right? So if, for example, integrations, right? So you're not just testing your application, you also need to make sure that you're testing the integrations as well, right? So that is one of the things that you need to keep in mind while you're doing the testing. So that's another challenge that the customers are facing. Oracle does provide a lot of best practices in terms of, how do you handle the continuous delivery, and Floyd has spoken about some of these things. How do you stay ahead of these changes? How do you make sure that you're actually absorbing the innovation that is getting pushed to you, right? So because what is happening is you're more focused on taking the changes, because you have to test it, you don't have enough time to test it. You're putting off all the features, customers are putting off all the new features to a later state, and then they get accumulated, and then you'll have to absorb it at a short duration, and then that poses additional challenges, right? So one of the things that is recommended by Oracle as best practice is to work with a trusted partner who can provide it as a service, so that you can focus more on the benefits of the cloud, instead of worrying about the validation of the patches that are getting implemented, right? So we have taken this customer through this journey, where we have supported them for during implementation. So they were on EBS, and then phase 1 got implemented. So we got automation up and running during phase 1 implementation, and then phase 2 implementation started while phase 1 went into post implementation patch support, where initially the customer was taking monthly patches to catch up on certain things they have not taken during the implementation phase, and now they have moved to quarterly patches. So we perform the whole impact analysis of the changes that are getting pushed by Oracle. As Floyd has pointed out, we are Oracle's release validation partner, so we do get advance notice on what are the changes that are coming in each patch. So we perform the impact analysis. We will understand what changes are going to be impacted for a particular customer, and we will update the test and execute the test within 3 to 5 days of a patch getting applied. So if you have a 2-week window, we are able to test within 3 to 5 days through automation. And we are not only testing the impacted test cases, we are actually doing a complete regression. Because we have automation in place, we don't have to pick and choose what to test. So that minimizes the risk of not missing out any defects into production, right? And that also leaves you 1 additional week to work either with Oracle to log an SR and get the issues resolved, or you can work with your support partner to get any personalization issues that got impacted as part of the patch. So that gives you enough time to work and get issues resolved and have a peace of mind when you go into production at the end of 2 weeks, right? Another benefit that we were able to provide to the customer, and the customer has started noticing, is it's freed up key personnel on focusing on business critical tasks instead of working and thinking about validating the releases every quarter, right? So that way, instead of focusing on testing, they're focusing on their business critical tasks and any new features that are getting pushed, and the impact of those, or the benefits of those, analyzing those things. The focus was put on that. We've also reduced the cost because this has been provided as a subscription service. Customers don't have to pay for somebody sitting there through the year. So we were able to reduce the cost of testing by over 60%. And this enabled the customer to focus more on the new features and functionality. So these are some of the benefits that we were able to, the customer was able to realize by subscribing to the CloudTestr service. So I'll quickly get into the CloudTestr for Oracle Cloud Applications, since that is the topic of the day. So how we have accelerated automation testing for customers who have migrated to cloud or who are implementing cloud. And one of the challenges that they're facing is, how do you test it? How long it takes to do the testing, right? So when you are migrating to cloud, there are two things that you need to be focused on, right? The reliability of migration as well as from an assurance standpoint, right? So you want to make sure that, from a security standpoint, from a performance standpoint, when you're taking continuous delivery, continuous patches that are coming your way, you want to make sure that those are getting properly tested. You're not seeing any changes in your security profiles of somebody who shouldn't have access to, for example, if an administrator access is provided to an employer or an employee, those kind of security checks have to be performed. Performance degradation, from a quality standpoint, how things are looking, making sure that you're minimizing the risk, because these are critical applications. You're running payrolls, you're running your financial systems on the cloud. You want to make sure that once any patch is getting applied, you have assurance that you're not going to see issues once you move into production, right? So those are the two important things that you want to consider while you're continuously consuming these releases and patches on your cloud applications, right? So CloudTestr is an enterprise automated platform that is built on top of Oracle public cloud infrastructure, OCI. It's the same place where Oracle cloud applications are also hosted, right? So in terms of security, it's completely secure. And we are providing this as a service to the customer. So basically, you're getting access to the platform where you can look at the test reports and metrics and all in real time. But you don't have to really do all the heavy lifting in terms of doing the automation, maintaining the automated tests, executing the automated tests and all that. So we provide that as a service. And this supports really well the Oracle's continuous delivery model, right? Because you're getting continuous testing put in place that enables you to continuously do the impact analysis of the changes that are getting pushed, run the automated regression tests of these changes in a short duration. And if there are any issues that you're identifying, you'll be able to work and get them resolved in a timely fashion, right? So it kind of goes hand in hand with the continuous delivery model by implementing the continuous automated testing as part of your landscape. So CloudTestr does provide support in terms of functional testing. If you have any integrations, we provide integrations testing support. Payroll data validation, I'll talk a little bit more on that as we move along in the webinar, where we do provide a self-service option for you to be able to check your payroll data as well. And we do role-based security testing, performance testing, any mobile testing that you have. So it kind of all encompasses all the different types of automated tests that you would be looking for, right? It, like I said, since we are providing it as a service, you do get access to the platform, but we do most of the heavy lifting. So this way you don't have to learn the tool, you don't have to implement a framework around it, and have somebody who understands, has the skill set to be using that tool, right? One of the other key considerations that we see a lot from our customers who have moved to cloud is integrations, right? Because you are going to have a lot of integrations with your other systems, whether it's on-prem systems, whether it's systems like Chronos or Cornerstone or Skillsoft or ADP, the different integrations that you're always going to have, which means you want to make sure that you're not only testing your particular application, but you're also testing the integrations with your application, whether it's inbound or outbound, and making sure that there is no impact on the data in terms of the data flow, no inconsistencies in the data, and things like that. And doing this testing manually would be very time consuming and error prone, right? So we have implemented end-to-end testing that includes integration. So you're kind of covering all types of tests that needs to be performed. This also includes different types of integrations, whether it's point-to-point integration, whether it's SOA-based integrations, REST APIs, SOAP-based APIs, any FTP-related file systems. So all different types of integrations you might have would be taken care of through automation. So I will get to the payroll data validation. So let me do a quick demo of the platform. So if you see here, this is the login page. Like I said, this is hosted on the cloud. Once you log in to the application, you are going to see the dashboard that provides you the details on from test case development standpoint, how many test cases are planned to be automated, how many have been completed, how many have been reviewed and signed off, how many are in progress. Same thing with the test execution. Once we log defects, you can have details on the defect status, defect severity, right? And you can also filter by releases as well, right? So for example, 19B is coming. So we can set up a release for 19B and execute those tests. So you can see the results associated with the 19B release, right? So that way you know what you're seeing for 19B. And all those access you will have. So you can log in at any point in time and check the details. You can also filter by, what status I am in. You can also filter by different modules for the products that you have in place. You can also download these test cases that are already automated, right? So there are a lot of features that you would have access to. Let me quickly show you one sample test case for Oracle HCM. So basically, this is a hire an employee test case. If you go in, so the way we do this is we actually have a lot of test cases available for all the cloud applications, considering we do work very closely with Oracle. With cloud applications, since 80% of the functionality is going to be common across customers, one thing that we need to understand once we start working with the customer is the personalizations and customizations that you have done in your environment. So the way we do this is we capture and configure the automated tests in your environment to capture your personalizations and your customizations. And then the platform auto generates the code behind the scenes, right? So we are really not writing any code. We capture and configure the automated test. And this is one of the reasons we are able to automate it really fast. So we can get automation up and running very quickly. And we can also maintain the automated test very quickly. And that is one of the reasons we are able to do this within 3 to 5 days of your test pod getting updated. And I don't think there is any tool or service out there which would be able to turn around that quickly at this point in time. So if you see, we also capture all the transactional screenshots. So what you can do with this is your test case documentation is auto-generated as well. So you don't have to worry about keeping up with your test documentation since the platform auto-generates it. You're always up to date with your test documentation. So since one of the things that you are going to start seeing is you're taking updates every 3 months, which means over a period of time, you might not see your documentation kept up to date, right? So over a period of time, 6 months, 1 year down the line, there might be somebody who knows what changed, but you might really not know, you might really not have documentation of those changes, right? So, and that becomes a challenge if you have a new person joining the team and you don't know exactly what has changed over a period of time. Right, so that problem you will never face because the documentation is auto-generated and you always have up-to-date documentation with screenshots that you can use for even training purposes. Right, so if you see, pretty much everything is documented with the steps and the screenshots associated with it. right? So that's one of the cool features that we have. We also have automated test data management inbuilt into the platform. So we can actually run the same flow, like hire an employee. I can hire different types of employees by providing different sets of test data. So I can set up 10 different types of employees to be hired with the same test case, right? So I can iterate through the test case. I can upload any Excel file. So we have automated test data management inbuilt into it, so that we don't have issues from a data standpoint. So if you see from a run history standpoint, we document everything, when we executed it, how long it took for this particular transaction to execute. And this is where we actually can determine a performance transaction performance degradation as well. So if we see that, last release when we executed it, it took 40 seconds to execute, but this release it took 1.5 minutes to execute, then we can actually notify you that there seems to be some degradation in the performance. We also tell you where we have executed the test, what the status of the test is, and the results also are very clearly documented in terms of if there are any failed steps. We upfront call up the failed steps. In terms of the past steps, you have the details, including the screenshot. You can download the screenshot as well at any point in time to check how the results look, right? So if you look at the results file, you know what the test case name is, when it got executed, where we executed it, whether it passed or failed, how long it took to execute, each step, what the status of that step is, and the screenshots associated with it, right? So this gives, even though you're not executing it, your business team or your BAs, whoever is responsible for validating, could just go check the test results and feel comfortable that everything looks good, right? And you can download this information at any point in time, from the platform itself, because you have access to it, right? So that's another feature that we do have here. We also have the ability to create test sets, right? So what I mean by that is, we can create test sets for core HR, for payroll, for compensation, so that we can run them as different test sets. We can also group test cases so that if I need output of one of the test cases to be input of the second test case, we'll be able to do that, right? So that way we're kind of doing an end-to-end flow by feeding the data automatically from one test case to the other test case as well. So there are multiple ways we leverage test sets as well. And I was talking about integrations. So we do have integrations built into the platform where you are able to test through automation your integrations as well, right? We can schedule tests to set it up so that either it can execute at a certain point in time. If you want us to execute it every month or every quarter, we can actually set it up. We can also integrate with your continuous integration process. If you have anything implemented like that, we can expose APIs where you can call this through your CI/CD process. So I'm going to quickly show you the payroll data validation. So customers who have implemented payroll, they have two types of testing. One is your functional testing, where you're validating that from a functionality standpoint, it looks good. The second part is actually doing the data validation, right? So before applying a patch and after applying a patch, you want to compare that your payroll data has not changed, and identify any variances and determine why there are variances, and how to get them resolved, right? Because you don't want any issues with your employee paychecks, right? So the way we have provided this is, it's a self-service platform that we're providing to the customer, where you can actually run your payroll report, whether it's a payroll register report or payroll activity report. You upload the file before the patch, run it before the patch. You can upload that. You can get the file after the patch, upload the same thing. And then you can also set tolerances in terms of, I have tolerance of, if it's standard earnings, I'm okay if it is 0.01% deviation and things like that, right? So you can actually set things up like that. And then you can check variances. If you wish to encrypt the data, you can. We usually don't store any information, and if there is anything that gets encrypted completely, right? You can email the report, or you can send it as an Excel. You can add multiple folks who you want the email to be sent. All those features are available. So if you see with the click of a button, you are able to see the overall net pay variance. You can see from a summary standpoint at gross pay level, deductions, net pay, and all that. You have at the component level summary. You also have detailed employee level summary of the employees who've got variances, right? So for example, this particular employee, there's a variance of $199.73 of their wages, right? So you can, with a click of a button, you can easily check your payroll data in terms of how it looks before and after patch. So this gives you a complete peace of mind to make sure that your data is not has not changed with your patch getting applied, right? And the platform actually can handle large volumes of data as well. We in fact have a large retail customer who has over 100,000 plus employees for whom they run payroll, and they have almost 5 different types of payrolls that they run. And they have files that are have more than 3 million records and over 500 MB file size. We are able to process those and send out an email, within 30 minutes to an hour of submitting the request, right? So we kind of, from a load standpoint, platform can handle pretty heavy load as well in terms of the number of records or the number of employees that you might have. Right, so so that's how the platform works. So let me quickly go back to the presentation. Then you might be asking, how does this whole delivery approach work, right? How do you work with us if you decide to move forward, right? So the way this works is, once we start engaging with you, we'll try to understand what are the modules that you've implemented. I try to understand your specific personalizations and customizations that you have done. And then we will do what is called an onboarding process. So we'll set you up first on the platform, and then we will do the onboarding process of capturing and configuring the automated tests in your environment. And then we will execute it the first time around and make sure that everything looks good and provide you the test results. We will get a sign off from you that everything that has been automated according to your implementation, and you're good to go. That completes the onboarding process. Once onboarding process is completed, then it's more of maintenance and execution or any on-demand testing that you have. So for example, if you're only looking for quarterly patch support, then all we will require is to know that when your patches are getting applied, and we will take care of impact analysis of the patches. We will take care of updating the test. We will execute the test within the 3 to 5 days window. And we will also not only run the tests. If we see any failures, we are not only going to just tell you that, hey, we've executed 200 tests, out of which 185 passed, 15 failed. You deal with analysis of the failures, right? No, we actually perform the analysis of the failed test cases, and we will notify you on our analysis. Our subject matter experts, who are HCM experts, are going to do the analysis, figure out whether it's a data issue, whether it's a code issue, whether it's a config issue, and we will notify you in terms of the changes, right? So we can tell you, okay, you need to work with Oracle, you can open an SR. These are the details you can use to open an SR. Or if it is something that has impacted your own personalizations, got impacted by the release, then we'll provide you necessary details to work with your support partner or your internal teams to get those resolved. And we'll retest after issues are fixed, and then give you a complete report of the final analysis of everything that has been done, and it gets moved into production, right? So this you can confidently move through your patches and updates with this approach, right? So we pretty much take care of from impact analysis to testing to providing you necessary information to work with whoever you need to work with, right? So then you can focus more on leveraging the benefits of the cloud, implementing new features, analyzing the new features, planning it out accordingly, and not worry about the actual release validations and testing part of it. That we completely take care of it, right? And so why do this, right? Why do you want to go through this process? So a few things that we do provide proactive patch and impact analysis, like I said, so that you don't have to worry about reading through the release notes, understanding what is in the release notes, figuring out what to test because of those changes, making sure you're testing it appropriately. All that is being taken care of us. We will do the analysis, we will do the testing, we will take care of it, right? And we not only have test engineers who are supporting this, but we have professional HCM functional experts who work hand in hand with us, right? So we're not going to waste a lot of your time in terms of understanding your functionality, keep coming back to you in terms of asking questions on the functionality and all, because we actually have our experts who understand your functionality during the onboarding process itself, so that we take care of it with minimal intervention from your team, minimal time spent from your team during onboarding as well as post onboarding process, where we are providing you the support, right? So that saves a lot of time from your experts, and they can focus on their business critical tasks. Since we are doing automation driven test executions, you don't have to worry about picking and choosing what to test. From a coverage standpoint, we will make sure all regression tests are executed apart from the impacted test cases as well, right? So that way you'll have a lot of peace of mind, and you're not doing risk-based testing, you're more doing complete coverage of your regression tests, right? Also, since this is a cloud-based platform, you always will have access to the current and historical reports of all the tests that we are performing. So you can at any point in time log in. If there are any audits that are being performed, you can just log into the platform. You have all the test results there. You know exactly when we executed the test. Everything is available and documented on the platform. So you can just provide access to your internal or external auditors who can, just check it from there. Right. And we do monitor the performance of a release quality as well, so that we are keeping track of, metrics in terms of release over release, what are the types of defects we're finding, and, what kind of things that you should be working with Oracle and things like that. Right. So I think that's all we have. So if you have any questions, you can actually ask either on the chat, or you can unmute and ask the questions at this point. Okay. Inder, do you see anything on the chat?
No, I didn't. But let me ask you a few questions, Lavanya. Do you have pre-built test libraries, or do you create automated test cases for each customer? Is it unique? And how do you account for customer-specific personalizations in your automated tests?
Okay, great. So we do have pre-configured test cases that we have available for most of the modules that are available today across the different cloud applications. The way we work with customers is during the onboarding process, we understand the customer specific personalizations and customizations, and based on that, we capture and configure the tests in the customer environment. So that way we are capturing all the personalizations and customizations in the customer environment, and then onboard it accordingly. So that's one of the reasons we are able to onboard it much faster, because we are not like starting from scratch. So we do have pre-configured test cases that we use.
And how long does it take to create automated tests?
So usually from an onboarding process standpoint, we take anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks to onboard a customer on CloudTestr. And then once we onboard, we, from an execution standpoint, it's more of every quarter. We once the test pod is updated, we do the impact analysis. We execute it within 3 to 5 days. So basically, you're working with us for that 2-week window, and maybe a few days prior to that to make sure we do the impact analysis. So and then it's basically that window that you will be seeing us during that quarterly releases. So, but usually the onboarding process itself is about 4 to 6 weeks.
Thanks, Lavanya. You and Floyd both mentioned about integrations and testing, integrations testing. So does CloudTestr cover both inbound and outbound integrations?
Yes, that's a good question. We do cover both inbound and outbound integrations, both the integrations coming into your cloud applications and going out of your cloud applications. We check the data flow across the board. So we do both inbound and outbound integrations.
Thanks for that clarification. Now, does CloudTestr also support automation of tests during implementation as well? And if so, how does it differ from post-implementation patch support? Can you?
Yes, so we do provide support for customers who are implementing cloud applications as well. And the way it differs with implementation versus post-implementation is during implementation, you're implementing, most of the customers implement module-wise, so you're configuring and setting up each module. So what we usually recommend customers to do is you start off your automation at that point in itself. So that you have automation readily available for your SIT phase. You have automation readily available during your UAT phases, where your business teams have to spend an enormous amount of time to do the testing, right? So what is happening during implementation, most of the time we have noticed with the customers, is you don't plan enough. And since it's a complete paradigm shift for the customers moving from on-prem to cloud, how you approach testing, how much testing you will have to do, what are the common features versus the features that are getting customized for customer specific things are important to understand, so you know what to test. And most of the customers are underestimating the amount of testing that is that needs to happen during SIT and UAT phases, and the timelines are getting impacted. But if you plan it in such a way that you have automation testing part of your plan, then you will have automated tests once modules are configured. You have the automated test created, and then you can leverage the same automated test during the SIT phase and during UAT phase, so that 80-90% of the testing in those phases can be done using automation, and the business team can actually focus more on those 20% one-off scenarios which are unique, that requires different types of data, and they have to set it up, and they can focus on the ones that are more unique and the most commonly used tests that can be run through automation. So for example, we work with a customer who's a large diagnostics customer, where we have automated almost 800 plus tests that they have. And during UAT, so they had 3 rounds of UAT, and we are doing most of the heavy lifting in terms of the testing, where we are running the tests, the 800 plus tests through automation, and the business team just checks the results, and they focus on their tests that are more smaller subset of those, right? So for example, they actually had though they planned for 3 rounds of UAT testing, it so happened that they missed out on certain features, and they had to implement it and run UAT 2.5. That imagine doing that unplanned testing manually, right? 800 plus tests running manually would take you multiple folks weeks to execute, but we were able to execute it in 3 to 5 days and share the results with them, right? So though there was an unplanned cycle that got introduced, since automation is already put in place, you are able to do it much faster. So once you do that during implementation, then you can leverage the same automated tests for post-implementation as well. So the migration to post-implementation would be much simpler.
Got it.
I think there might be one more question on the chat.
No, it was me asking everybody if there is any more questions for Oracle or for Sonaratech.
Okay. Okay. Thanks everyone for joining the webinar. We will publish the recording as well in case you want to access it later on. And if you want to reach out to us, you can reach out to cloudtester@sonaratech.com, or you can visit our website cloudtester.com where we can set up a quick discussion on how we can onboard you.
Thank you, Lavanya, and thank you, Floyd.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lavanya.